game would be set up between a two-player match, and I've got the two-player farm board set up over here, and each person will start with their first generation, 4 characters that'll be on their farm. And then if you notice, you've got 3 second generations, you've got 2 third generations, and 2 fourth generations, and I'll explain how all those work when I get deeper into the gameplay. I'm going to do my best to try to explain this game in a few minutes here to show you how it works, because I know this board looks extremely busy and it seems like it can be a bit confusing, but it's not. It actually works very well. You're going to take one of your markers, these little markers here, and you're going to place right up here on the time track, right to the right of your bridge. Now this is very important because time is always going to be moving in this game, which is going to kill off your characters. You're also going to take one of your other tokens and you're going to place it up here at the top corner of the score tracker itself. What you're going to do then is depending on how many players, which this is a 2-player game, it's going to teach you how to seed these little circles. We've got a yellow, a brown, purple, red, purple, green, blue. Right here it tells you what colors you are going to put into this green bag. And then right here, the numbers is going to tell you how many of those cubes you're going to pull out and actually seed each one of these circled areas. Once you've got all that done, then we actually go into gameplay. Now, this game consists of actions. Anytime you take any color cube from any colored circle, that circle denotes what type of action you're going to take. Now, this seems a bit confusing because the board's so busy, but it's not. We've got 7 different colored circles. It doesn't matter what color of cube or resource you take from that circle as much as what circle color you took the cube from, because that depends on what action you take. And what I'm going to do is try to walk you through each one of these 7 circles and give you an idea of how they work, and also for scoring and such. So why don't we start here with this big yellow one. This is your crafting area, okay? So right here, this area, okay, this is all crafting. Don't look down at this church, okay? Just right here, these buildings. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buildings that are all for this yellow circle, okay? If you take one of these cubes, you can do several different things depending on if you have people that you could place up here, and if you have time, or if you have resource cubes. So what's interesting about this game is that you have 2 ways of paying for things. You can either pay with time, or you can pay with resources. And it's all listed on the roofs of each one of these buildings of what it's going to cost you. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Here, if you take one of your guys, so you take the resource, which means you're going to perform the action, put it on your farm board, take one of your guys, and you can place it on any one of these 4 spots here. What that allows you to do is train one of your workers in this particular trade. So for instance, I put him up here, I can train him to make plows. Put him here, I can train him to make wagons. Put him here, I can train him to make horses, and I don't know how he makes horses and oxes. I don't want to get into that. Right here, I can train him to write scrolls. Now we do have a windmill here, but you do not ever place a person there, because all that is that you're going to trade in grain for money, but it does cost you time as well. So once you take your cube, you have the option of either training a guy, or if you notice, we do have colored cubes that point to that particular resource. So for instance, I could either train a person to make this for me, or I can pay these 2 resources and get that tool instead. So I could pay a red and a pink and get the plow, or I could put a guy up here, and then what happens is if I want to train him, I look at the amount of time it says here to the left of the little gray person. It says 3 times. So if I want to train him, I would immediately have to move 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now, if I ever want to make a plow, it shows it to the right of what it cost in time as well. So it cost me another 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Every time you pass this bridge and you go around, one of your family members dies. So you've got to make sure you play this important. It is the most important aspect of the game, is paying attention when family members dies. It is the most important resource of the entire game. Because whenever a family member dies, you always got to take your lowest generation, which you would start with your number 1s, and you are going to either place them in the book if there's an available spot, or they're going to go over here into the common grave. If there is an opening here, you would just match the color of the circle, so this is a yellow, and let's say he did die. If there is a yellow space right here in this line open, you would place him in just like that. And that's for scoring purposes, which I'll explain later. Next, let's move over. let's go to the church. The church is the brown spot right here. With the church, what it allows you to do is if you take one of the cubes, you can take one of the people off your farm and you can toss them into this black bag. Go to church, pal! I will explain what that means in just a minute because that actually goes to the end of the round. So let's go from church, which is just right here, this section, okay? That's the church. And we're going to actually touch on that a bit more here in just a bit. Move over here to the family. Anytime you take a cube off of the family circle here, you get to take your next generation, which would start with your second generation, and place them on your farm just like that. Now, let's move up to the console right here. Anytime you take a cube off the console, now one thing I want you to make sure you remember, just because you took the cube, you do not have to perform the action. You can take the cube. You don't have to do any of these things. But, because sometimes you'll just take it just to prevent your opponent from taking the action. But this is the actions that you can perform once you do take them. So once you take the cube from here, what you're allowed to do is you're allowed to start entering into politics. Right here, the first one here means that you would have to pay one time on your board. Remember, time is very important, but you are mandatory to pay one time. Then you're going to either choose to pay one of the scrolls that you possibly built from over here, or you're going to pay 2 green cubes right here, and you can put one of your guys right here on the board, which would allow you then to take the first player token and put it in front of you so that you can go first. Now you can advance 3 more times in this console, and as you notice, the higher up you go, the more time it takes you. Now it never changes between the scroll or the 2 green cubes that it would cost you, but at the end of the game you may even get victory points depending on how high up you get. If you ever get to here, well actually even if you get to here, you can perform the action in this spot or this spot. So any spot that you get to, you can perform the duties of that area or any of the other ones down. So let's say if I did place a guy, I would put him here, I'd move him up, but he stays inside the building just like that, and he never leaves unless he dies. Now you can recall, ooh, something I forgot real quick, the family thing. Let's say I did take one of these cubes, I can, instead of producing another family member, I can recall one of my family members back to my farm. Black cubes, real quick, I want to explain these. These cost you time. Every time you take a black cube off any of these circles, you have to deduct 2 time immediately. These are plague cubes. Plague cubes. So let's go from the council and let's go up to here to the cart. The cart is how you're going to gather grain. Grain can be used at the windmill where you trade in grain when we go over here to the yellow cube or the yellow circle. You could trade it in for money, or it could be used in the church, which I'll explain that in just a bit. Anytime you go to here on your player board, it'll tell you how much grain you can get. First thing you always got to remember is you have to have a family member on your farm to be able to get this grain in the first place. But it's going to tell you right here, if you just have a family member, you get 2 bags of grain. If you have a horse and a cart, you can get 3 bags. If you have a ox and a plow, a horse and a plow, but if you have a ox and a plow, you can get 4 bags. You can only ever hold 5 bags, so you got to make sure that you either spend them or whatnot. Once we go up to here, this is really cool. Now, that was right there, the console building, okay? Now, we're going to go to this spot, which is the green, and that encompasses all of this area up here in this corner, okay? So we've got a fence here, all this area here. Now, it looks a bit confusing, but it's not. It's very simple. If you take one of these cubes, okay, you get the option of traveling. So what you can do is you can take one of your family members, okay, and then you're going to place him. You can place him right here, and then look at your options. You're going to go one of 2 directions on the start of the game, okay? What this is telling you right here is no matter what, every time you travel, it's going to cost you 2 time, okay? And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas you can travel to. So you're going to look to see if you've got them 2 resources first, okay? So you got 2 pinks or possibly 2 browns. 2 pinks will take you here, 2 browns will take you up here. It's going to cost you 2 time, and you got to make sure you have a wagon. If you have all of those things, then you're going to deduct the time, you're going to put the resources back into the pool, and you're going to discard your wagon that you made from over here into the pool again, and then you're going to take your guy and place him on either one of these places, and then you're going to take one of your markers and you're going to put it on there to show that you have traveled to that city or town. You're also going to get whatever it says here. So for instance, the first couple of towns you go to, you're going to get 3 victory points. Up here would give you a coin, This town would give you 2 resources of your choice, but you can only ever visit a town once and get these benefits. So it's not like you could just keep going, you know, from here to here to here to here to here to here and keep getting victory points. You only visit them once. And depending on how many of these markers that you have visited, so let's say you visited several towns, you could put several of your markers on as such, and that works for bonus scoring at the end of the game, which I'll get to in just a bit. Lastly is our market. So whoever takes this takes the lead in the market. These are your market tiles. Let me just bring one up here. Okay? They always start face down over here in the supply, so you never know which ones you're drawing. But up here is the victory points you could gain from it. Down here is what it's going to cost you to be able to get this tile. So you give this guy a horse, you're going to take this, place it face down in front of you, and at the end of the game, you're going to get 4 victory points. The first person who takes this gets to perform any of these actions for free. Anybody else that follows up that first person is going to have to pay 1 green cube and 1 time. Then they are allowed to take and purchase one of these items. And so forth. And then even the first person, when it comes back to him, because everybody has the chance of entering the market or they're going to pass. If everybody just starts doing the thing, it comes back to the first person, then he is going to have to pay 1 green cube and 1 time to be able to do a second offering. Now, we do have 2 blank spaces up here. The only reason that is because this is set up for a 2-player match. In a 3-player match, we would have this square. In a 4-player match, all of these would be filled up. Now, down here is all the waiting. These people are waiting in line, and they'll come up. So once these are taken, let's say all 3 are taken, then these would come up. But you can't necessarily purchase those right away. You have to actually wait till the next turn. So they don't like, okay, I purchased this one, this takes its spot. It doesn't work that way. But this is that area that's right up here, okay? So that's how the board is laid out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into the church. After all of these have been taken, actually, you know what? I'm going to go into the wishing well real quick instead. So let's say there's 1 cube left, and we'll put it right there, okay? So let's say all the cubes have been taken except for that one right there. You do have the option of going into the wishing well, okay? This is the wishing well right here, all right? What this tells you is if you take 3 cubes of, they got to all be the same color, you could throw them into the wishing well, bling! And then what that allows you to do is you can take any action from any one of these circles that you wish. So you throw in like those 3 orange I just showed you there, or 3 red, whatever color they are. Then you could say, okay, I want to take, and I want to perform the family action, and I want to take another family member, put him on my farm, just like that. Now, the main thing you want to always keep in mind is your time. I keep emphasizing this because it's important. Because depending on if you ever pass that bridge and if your family members die, depending on where they're at when they die, depends on where they're placed in the book. Right here, the first line is if they die in the council. So if you did have a person in the council and you pass that bridge, then you could put him in the book just like that. However, let's say if that spot's full, because if you notice we've got a 3 and a 4, what that means, it signifies that in a 2-player game, you can never place on the 3s. In a 3-player game, you can go to the 3s. In a 4-player game, you see, so it depends on how many players, how many spaces will be open up in the book, is what I'm saying. So what you're going to do is that you're going to have to be careful, because if anybody ever dies, let's say that I had another person in the council, and then I passed the bridge, well, and then I had to kill him, well, he's going to go over into the common grave area, unfortunately. So I'm not going to be in the book. You get no points for ever dying in the common grave. You do get points for being in the book. I'll explain about that in a bit more detail here in just a minute. At the end of the round, after all the seeds have been taken off, or all the resources taken off of each of the circles, you're going to go into the church. Alright, what you're going to do here is you are going to draw people out of this black bag. Now let's take a look at what we got in here. Right now we have 4 black monks, and we also have 1 person who is a churchgoer. However, they don't automatically get to go to church. You're going to actually have to draw them out. So what you're going to do is you're going to draw out 4 total. 1. Hey, you got lucky. He's going to start right there. So let's say yellow had a person in there too. Let's throw them in too. There, he got out too. Look at that. And then you draw out just the other 2 black monks. So you can, if you want, pay a coin and draw out your person and look in the bag and pull out who you want. Otherwise, it's just random. You may not ever get drawn out of the bag. So what this is going to allow you to do is you are a church goer now, okay? So you are going to then decide how much grain you are going to pay to move your person up in the church hierarchy. So for instance, if I wish to move from here to here, it would cost me 1 grain. From here to here, 2 grain from here to here, 4 bags of grain. Why is that important? Several reasons. Whoever owns the majority of people in the church at the end of each round gets 2 victory points. If there is a tie for majority, whoever is the furthest left from here over has it basically higher up in the hierarchy, they get the 2 points. So this adds up. Don't underestimate the value of the church. Every round, 2 points adds up to a lot of points at the end of the game. So pay attention to who you put inside the church. Also, if you notice, there's victory points. 2, 3, 4, 6, which count towards the end of the game. So if you have a living person at the end of the game that is still alive on one of these little windows here, you're going to get the victory points based off of that. And that's the same over here in the council. Depending on what the victory point number is, let's say if I had a guy all the way here, you're going to get 6 victory points at the end of the game. This would give you 6 victory points, and that's the maximum you're going to be able to get. All right, so let's get to the end of the game scoring. Okay, so let's say the book is full. Okay, we've killed off all our people. And let's put them here in the book of life full, or the common grave, whichever one. We're going to just say the book filled up just for purposes of scoring. So we're going to say the common grave, not many people died. The book did fill up. So what you're going to do first is you're going to go around the board. You're going to see how many places you traveled to. Right here is the number. So if you travel to 1 place, you're going to get 1 bonus point. 2 places, 3. 3 places, 6 points. 4 places, 10 points. 5 places, 14, with a maximum of visiting all places for 18 points. Big, big deal. It's costly to travel because it takes you a lot of resources, but boy, is the payoff huge with 18 points. Move from there, go over to here, see if you have any people. Just look at the number here in the corner. It's going to tell you how many victory points. If you have a person on that spot, then like for this, you get 6 victory points. Let's go down to the book. Depending on how many people you actually have in the Book of Life, we have 4 for the blue and 5 for the yellow. So you would just look here to the left. It tells you how many people that you have to have in the book to get victory points. So if you only have 2, you get 0. If you have 3 people, you'd get 4 victory points. 4 people would give you 7 victory points. 5 people in the Book of Life would give you 12 victory points. So yellow would get 12, blue would only get 7. Now let's go over here. We have blue on the 6, so he'd get 6 victory points, and yellow is on the 2, so he would only get 2 victory points. Last but not least, any tiles you have collected, you would just score the victory points on those. And also, one thing I forgot to explain to you was the coins. Any coins you have left over, you can actually turn those in, each coin 1 victory point each.